Baby, if everybody else has to be silent or dead for your argument to work, you're not having an argument, you're having a tantrum. And if you think I'm wrong, educate yourself.
And might I add,
something tells me you're going to anyway, despite everyone wishing you would shut the fuck up.
I think the most racist people are people of
Racism isn't just that your feelings are hurt because people don't like you. Racism is a system, an institution, policies, laws built around the fact that one group has the authority to oppress another. Black people or people of color can be prejudiced, but they would need a system of power to back that prejudice up in order to be racist. And since you couldn't be bothered to look up the definition of racism before you made such an asinine statement on the internet, let me help you out. Racism is discrimination with institutional power. People of color didn't build the systems. People of color didn't decide who could vote and who couldn't. People of color didn't build the policy models. Your ancestors did that. The FBI's own present-day data shows that white people are the least likely to be victims of hate crimes. So you're not being oppressed, you're uncomfortable. What's happening is people are no longer coddling your historical amnesia, and they're not stroking your ego while you turn centuries of violence into a victim narrative for yourself. Shut the fuck up.
That is a lie. And that lady is not saying the truth. Imagine her saying that being white is a problem. It's underprivileged. Is being profiled, being treated inferiorly. I can go on and on because that's what she's saying, that white people are the most underprivileged people. That they go through a lot of profiling and racist, and they are the one that is more prone to being attacked and all of that. They are more prone to being attacked. Is that true? Imagine driving this narrative. And she has said a lot about it, and the video has actually trended. And she has also come up with, she's standing on what she said, that white people are the ones that are not given a lot of opportunity. And the question is, what more opportunity you want again? You said the black folks are more privileged, that they don't go to races and all that. And I'm wondering, where is she from? Is she living in America? Is she aware of what she's saying? That is a blatant lie. If there's anyone that is privileged, if there's anyone that has, that's what we call white supremacy. Palm colored people are more privileged in America. If there's anybody that is prone to attack, is the black folks. It is a public knowledge. She's a liar, and it's so annoying. And of course, a lot of responses have come. People are bashing her. They are saying, "What are you talking about?" Welcome to my channel, guys. I have this trending story for you guys that you need to watch. And this lady has said a lot about white folks, and everybody's saying you are lying. And let's go check out videos and stitches that people have responded to her. And I'll be right back so that we can begin the conversation. Credit belongs to you, credit of every stitches and content that I'll be playing for you today. I'll be right back.
what was originally a joke. I'm sorry. I should apologize because I did not realize people weren't funny.
Yesterday, I did a get ready with me, even though I was self-conscious to do it. And today I'm going to do a get unready with me, because I don't know about you, but today I had the gift of opening up TikTok and watching a woman run directly into a fire.
Since we want to talk about it, I actually do have a lot to be tired for, and don't belittle my feelings.
Obviously, that was a metaphor, because, TikTok wouldn't allow that. But for some reason, TikTok allowed what this woman had to say with her whole chest. Her life is about to change in such a big way, and not a positive one. And I think it already has, because the video that I showed you is really all that you're able to get, because she did take the post down. And by way of explanation, she left this. I'm going to put it on the screen. Pause to read. if you dare. And following that, she did another post where she doubled down real hard, so hard that the earth shook a bit.
Okay, so in the last 24 hours, I've made many people very, very angry with my poor delivery of my opinion on white hatred and racism. Yes, you heard that correctly. I, as a white woman, openly spoke about how many people of color are racist towards white people.
The whole post was like peppered with these little condescending, you gotta hear it.
Okay, anywho.
I mean, it's that follow-up that I want to respond to because, and I'm going to try to explain some stuff. I'm going to try very hard not to lead with anger because I think a lot of people are doing that. It's deserved, but I'm going to try really hard not to because nobody listens to you when you're mad, or at least not me, because I'm Black. Starting off strong with the first thing that you said in your first video.
Being a white woman in America, you're targeted.
You think that you're being targeted. I think that the reason that you feel like you're being targeted is because, there's a lot of posts calling out Karens, and you may have actually seen somebody who is an actual, educated historian saying that white women are the most dangerous kind of white people to people of color and not understood it. And instead of trying to research and understand it, you got mad. You have Google, just like I do. And so I don't want to go too far into it, but the reason why people are saying that white women are more dangerous than white men is because white women have two things going for them. Okay. First of all, they have the privilege of white men. They do, but they also have the privilege of this sort of infantilization where white men feel like they need to protect the virtue of white women. And they will do anything to do that, even if it means unfairly targeting people of color with violence and danger, which means that you wield all of that power, right in your front pocket. All you have to do is make it seem like a person of color was hurting you in some way. And you'd be surprised. So many white people are going to come running to your defense, even if there is nobody hurting you at all, as I'm sure that you saw all during 2020 because there were so many videos. You can still see videos about it, but there was a saturation of it in 2020. Oh, I can hear you screaming from here, but I didn't do that. I don't do that. Okay. I believe that you do because I've watched all of your videos against my better judgment, but that's why you feel targeted. I've never done this before. Am I supposed to be showing the product? I don't. They're probably all wrong. I'm not sure if I'm using the right this is why I don't do these, but I digress. I want to go into your double down, your follow-up, if you will. Because one of the first things that you launch into to discuss how targeted you have been as a white woman is a story in which you talk about how you grew up in a neighborhood that was not predominantly white.
But then a predominantly Black/Hispanic neighborhood where I was referred to as white girl and never by my name, in which they knew it.
Hang on, I'm laughing. Do you know what I was called in my neighborhood? I'm not even going to say all of the slurs because TikTok won't let me say them. You understand? My video will be taken down. They all knew my name because I was one of 8% of Black people that went to my school. Everybody knew my name, and yet they would call me those kind of names, but they would also say things like Bonquita, Bonquiqui, Shaniqua, Shantayla, all of these things, which are just African sounding names, but they would say that knowing that my name is Jennifer. You also mentioned, because somebody said in the comments of your first video that you were loud and wrong. And you said that if you had posted that in a Black woman's video.
Now, if I commented that under a Black woman's post, I'd be called racist for simply calling her loud.
That everybody would say that you were a racist just for using the word loud. Very interesting because you purport to not be a racist and yet you ran directly into the racist poll and didn't blink. Hang on. I'm finding it. I'm going to start with, if you would have put in the comments of a Black woman that they were loud and wrong when they were talking about how targeted they are, then you would not be being called a racist for calling her loud. You would be being called a racist for being a racist. But it's interesting that you point out that Black women are always being called loud because I do have a measured tone. I do try to speak quietly and keep my anger quiet, because if I don't, then I'm called aggressive or loud or called an angry black woman. Also, for funsies, if I code switch, I'm not black enough. And if I don't code switch, I'm ghetto. Another thing that you mentioned, and this was not you specifically, it was somebody in your comments talking about something that happened to them, and both of you were addressing it as though it were this big act of violence against this white woman. She said, and I quote, that she had to play a slave owner in a Juneteenth play even though she was uncomfortable with it.
They even made me play a slave owner in a Juneteenth play. And even though I was uncomfortable, I was told I couldn't feel uncomfortable because of my ancestors. All right, that's a fucking shitty experience.
Hang on! To reiterate what was said in the video. Okay, I'm not making this up for funsies or to make anybody laugh. In a play about Juneteenth, a white person had to play a slave owner, and that was an act of racism. How do you believe that the black people who had to play slaves felt playing slaves? Do you think that that was a fun experience for them? Do you think that acting out generational trauma is something that all of these black people enjoyed so much, and making her a slave owner was a punishment? Who was she supposed to play? As an actor who has played a slave more times than I can count, to be honest. No, it is not fun to act out your generational trauma. No, it is not. In fact, it's awful, and sometimes it weighs down on you. And what's better is that sometimes it's the only way that you can even get work as an actor is to act out black trauma. Oh, everybody loves Hairspray and thinks it's just a fun and wild ride. They just forget about all of the racism in it. To be in Hairspray as a black person, you have to play a black person in the 1960s. Why does nobody ever... I'm not angry. I'm just being passionate right now. There are other comments that you mentioned in your video that I'm not going to speak to, because those people actually endured some heinous things. One person had their house up, and another person was very much bullied. Bullying is never okay. Bullying is never okay. Here is the thing, okay? Because I did say that your life is going to change, not in a good way, unless this is what you're looking for, okay? There was that woman who said the N-word and got really, really famous with the alt-right, and they got really happy about her, and now she's got a platform because she's a racist, like yourself. And listen, I want you to hang on to that for a second, because a lot of people are racists. They might not even know it. There are biases being had by so many people that they're not aware of, and that they just need to work on. If by simply being educated, calling you a racist is not an insult and it is not me bullying you, it is fact. Listen to the way you spoke to us. So if what you're looking for is attention from the Trump supporting, Charlie Kirk worshiping, Elon Musk saluting, you will not replace us chanting folk, then you're headed in the correct direction, and you're going to do great. But if you want to come out of this not being embraced by that kind of person, then what I suggest you do is just take a step back and listen to what's being said. I always compare the way that I feel about macaroni and cheese to the way that I feel about white people, and I hope that this is the last time that I say it. Mac and cheese is great when it's good, but it's awful when it's bad. And the problem is that you never know if you are eating good or bad macaroni and cheese until you take a bite. So sometimes it's easier just to not eat mac and cheese. And I mean that. I don't hate any kind of person, and I mean that with my whole chest. But sometimes it's safer for me to avoid people. And I keep being reminded by videos like yours. So I hope that you do learn from this. I hope that you do take a step back. I know that you probably won't, but I really hope that you do, because this is a very valuable lesson. You seem young. You seem very young, and you don't want your whole life to be about this moment. Okay.
So, white people. Question. What does it feel like to be white? Especially if you're white in America.
Imagine being a race that you're not allowed to be proud of. That's what it's like to be white. Imagine if I made a post on social media saying that I'm proud to be white. I would be considered the most racist person ever. That's what it's like to be white. Imagine being blamed for things you had absolutely no part of. That's what it's like to be white. There are all these occasions. We have Black History Month, we have Juneteenth, Martin Luther King Day. Imagine if there was a day dedicated to being white. That would be a no-go. That's what it's like to be white. Then there's a television channel, BET, Black Entertainment Television. Can you imagine if there was a television channel, WET, for white entertainment? That would be a no-go. That's what it's like to be white. If we speak out about racism, we are hated by some of our own race, as well as all the other races. That's what it feels like to be white. It's a lose-lose situation. The truth of the matter is, the majority of white people are not racist at all. The media portrays us as something we're not. So you need to be looking at each individual person and not lumping us all together based on the actions of a few. Have a blessed day.
This person asks, how do you respond to white people playing the victim of racism against them and claiming their race gets discriminated against? I believe that in most cases, if a white person claims that our race is being discriminated against, it is based out of ignorance. I believe that true white supremacists are common, but not nearly as common as some might think. I believe most white people who have racist ideologies have been programmed by their families and their environments. But to answer your question, I would address the history of systemic racism against Black Americans in this country. I would talk about how there was 250 years of race-based intergenerational chattel slavery, where Black Americans were beaten, raped, tortured, cannibalized, genocide, and sold like property. Then the 13th Amendment happened, which states that chattel slavery is now illegal, but slavery and indentured servitude is still acceptable as punishment for crime. And at the time of the 13th Amendment, not every state had a prison. But after the 13th Amendment, every single state started investing in prisons and targeting Black Americans to fuel prison slave labor, which is a major reason why the Jim Crow laws were put in place, which essentially made it illegal to be black. After the first Civil Rights Act of 1963, no reparations were given to the Black communities. Before that, there was over 100 years of the Jim Crow laws, which forced Black Americans into poverty with little to no education. Not to mention the United States government bombing successful Black neighborhoods. So after the Civil Rights Act of 1963, Black Americans were still forced into poverty with little to no education. No reparations were given for slavery or for the Jim Crow laws. Over 350 years of blatant systemic racism. Remember how I said the United States was targeting Black Americans to fuel prison slave labor? Almost 40% of the United States prison population is made up of Black Americans, yet they only make up 13% of the United States population. That is systemic targeting. Just last year, the United States made $82 billion off of prison slave labor. If you are born Black in the United States, you have nearly a 50% chance of being born into poverty. Whereas if you are born white, you have less than a 10% chance of being born into poverty. Over 70% of the United States is made up of people who classify themselves as white. If a white person feels like they are being discriminated against, they should know that it is on a vastly smaller scale, and it is not systemic. If you want to get into the topic of racism against white people, there is no such thing. Now, if you're watching this video, you might be shocked that I just said that. Racism is power plus prejudice. Remember earlier whenever I said over 70% of the United States is classified as white? White people have the systemic power. And sure, you can say if one white person is prejudiced, that doesn't make systemic. But if there are thousands of people scattered across the United States in positions of power who are prejudiced, that is systemic. Black and indigenous and people of color can absolutely be prejudiced, and yes, that does hurt when it happens. No one likes when someone else doesn't like them for a preconceived notion. But just because someone who is black or brown doesn't like us, that does not mean that it is racism. Because black and brown people do not have the systemic power to enforce racism. Here is a Webster Dictionary definition. The systemic oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, and political advantage of another. White supremacy. So in other words, if you think you were discriminated against based on your race, if you are white, you probably were not. And racism towards white people does not exist. Learn up.
This woman made a statement, and many people are saying she is the greatest woman to ever live. Now listen to what she said. Even most white people have admitted it.
person would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the direction. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
That moment revealed a truth more powerful than any statistic or debate. People know that black people are treated unfairly, yet they rarely acknowledge it openly. Their silence was an admission. Their refusal to stand was proof that they understood the depth of discrimination and wanted no part of it. This simple question exposed the reality of racial inequality more clearly than any lecture could. It forced people to confront the gap between what they claim to believe and what they know to be true. For decades, this woman has dedicated her voice and her energy to fighting for equality, justice, and human dignity. She has stood firmly with black people, not because it is popular, but because it is right. She consistently speaks against discrimination, challenges people's biases, and refuses to ignore injustice. Her work shows a deep commitment to making society fairer, and she does it with honesty, courage, and compassion. She does not want to see anyone treated badly or devalued simply because of their race. In a world where many stay silent, she chooses to stand up. And that is why her message carries so much weight. Do you agree with her?
One thing that I'm happy about is the fact that everybody has responded to, and guess what? The people that responded the most in those clips that you just watched are palm-colored people that knows that if there's anybody that is segregated, that is I'm looking for the best word to use. If there's any race that is underrated, that is underprivileged, that is treated anyhow, that is not having equal right, it is the black people, the colored people. That's the word they use. And that is why you see the people that first responded to our palm colored people, and they are saying that you are a liar. You are not saying the truth. They said, which part of America you live in that you could say that? And the gimmicks is that when you play the victim, that is exactly what she's doing. She's playing the victim so that she can get. I mean, what I don't want to insinuate. What exactly is she trying to get? Is it trying to get the support of the people? Is it trying to make it look like, oh, now we are not getting the support, the privilege? We are, for 400 years, you guys have been privileged. You guys have been the one that the focus, the privilege, the constitution is considered before they enact it. They think of what is going to benefit you for 400 years. It is now that things are beginning to look like, even now, it has not gone the way of the blacks, but we can say that black person can stand up now and speak for themselves. But for 400 years, your forefathers, great grandfathers enacted laws. They did all of those things to favor them so that you, people like you, can be advantaged. And that is exactly what has happened. If you say the black person speak of racism, are you the one that have you been profiled? If someone says is looking for a job in a place, and before they consider a black person, they will have considered like 4 or 5 white person. If someone is, let's even go back to the era of our forefathers when they can't even access loan in the bank, they can't go to school, they can't buy a house. The minimum, the wage they're giving them is different from the one. Maybe she does not know. Before now, the wage difference between a black person and a white person is 1. Why the white person is 58 ratio 1. Later on, it reduced. Right now, it's 6-1 in America right now. So when you come on social media, I'm going to rant and say what is not a fact, then you know that the lady, is it that she's not okay? Is it that she's going through low self-esteem? Is it that she's going through, it's practically low self-esteem, because everybody knows, the public knowledge, that if you're a white person, you are more privileged than any other race. So stop saying that You are the target. How can you be the target? If you go on the street, if you scream and shout for help, you will get 10 times help than when a black person shout on the street and say help, help. The people that will respond to her will not be the same thing, the same number that will respond to you. That's a very practical example. If you're a white person and you cry, if black person is around you and you shout and you just cry, just a little cry, the help that you get, and that black person will be in trouble. But let a white person be the one that the black person is shouting for help. Let's see the rate of help that a black lady will get once it is a white person that is close to her. Let's see. These are examples of how to deduce, how to know the reality that the black person or palm colored people are not privileged. They are more target than you, palm colored person. So when you come on social media and say, who are the most target? Who are the answer is yes, the palm colored people can never be the target, but black and white colored people. If I want to give it a rate, you said that the black are the first the first target. Then you go to Latinos, and you go to Asia. That's hierarchy. The black are the most vulnerable. They are the most targeted people. They are the most underprivileged people anywhere in the world. And you come on social media and you are lying. This is a lie. And that is why everybody is refuting and they are saying they're giving the response that you deserve. And you came back again and saying, no, come on, go and sit down. You're a liar. Is that you have it's either you have a low self-esteem that has been there to, that has been given to you from your home front. So don't come on to social media and generalize what experience you went through when you are growing up, because what you are saying is a lie, and everybody knows that. Even white people know that you are lying. And stop it, guys. Let me know what your take is. Let me know what your views are concerning this lie. This literally just told that white people are the most targeted people. Let me put it. Who is the most targeted people? Let me ask that question. I want to get a response from everybody online. Let's talk about this. Let's debunk this lie this lady has told. Let the conversation begin. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying to this time. I'm grateful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. And until I come your way again, bye-bye.